With Steven Adams' future uncertain, the Houston Rockets have another big man in mind to acquire this offseason. And this could be exactly what the Rockets need to provide a great backup for Alperen Şengün and get this team to where it was last year in the playoffs. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Rockets Digest. I am your host, Donovan Ricondo. Thank you so much for joining us here today. A pleasure having you. If you have not yet, hit that bell below. Go ahead and hit it if you want to stay up to date on all your Rockets content like this. And we're going to get straight into our story today. Steven Adams has been the subject of a lot of talks this offseason with him being a free agent. Now, he had that very, interesting Instagram post saying goodbye to Houston, whether or not that's, or not goodbye to Houston, but an end of season kind of farewell. So whether or not that is an indication that he plans on leaving Houston or was just simply thanking fans for the year remains to be uncertain because no moves yet have been made regarding Steven Adams. Now, I will say first off, if you can sign Steven Adams, absolutely do it, right? He was a key force for you throughout the playoffs, throughout the regular season. He was the guy that kept you in that series with the Golden State Warriors, that guy off the bench that was able to provide very valuable minutes. So first and foremost, if you can sign him, please do. Now, that remains to be a question, right? There's going to be a lot of teams after Steven Adams, after the way he played last season. He's relatively cheap for a guy who's been in the NBA for 10 plus years and has a lot of mileage on him. And so a new report has shed some light on what the Houston Rockets would decide to do if Steven Adams does not re-sign with Houston. And it comes from a guy by the name of Jake Fisher from the Stein line, who says, quote, sources say that Houston, furthermore, would once again have interest in signing Brook Lopez if the Rockets are unable to retain Steven Adams, end quote. Now, that is a very, very interesting report, right? Brook Lopez, no stranger from Houston's interest. Houston wanted to acquire him last offseason, but Brook Lopez decided to return to Milwaukee in hopes of, having another championship with Giannis Antetokounmpo. Obviously, that did not pan out. So now here we are again. Houston still interested in Brook Lopez, who had a pretty solid year last year. 13 points per game, 5 rebounds, 1.8 assists, 1.9 blocks, half a steal. Turnovers pretty limited, as expected, as he's not a primary ball handler by any means. One of the key things that I do want to note is his age, right? Now, we're obviously not going to extend him we're not signing him to a 5-year contract by any means. It'll probably be a 1-year, 2-year contract if we do sign him, right? But he is 37 years old. He has been in the NBA for quite a while and has that mileage on him. But he offers a lot of great things as well. He's 7'1", shooting 50% from the field, 37% from three-point line, which is something that could be very, very valuable for the Houston Rockets, having another three-point shooter, although he's, not your main shooting guard kind of player, but a big who can nevertheless shoot. And that, to me, right, is the best thing you can get if you don't have Steven Adams. You want a veteran who has a paint presence and has been in the league for a while and has that experience, has that leadership that they can bring to this young Rockets squad. And you're probably wondering, right, is Brook Lopez interested in leaving Milwaukee? That's the first thing that we have to answer for you guys. And from what I was able to find, right, if you look at the bottom there in the red, it says, quote, most everyone I've spoken to assume Brook Lopez is gone. That's in reference to Milwaukee. Everyone that this reporter has spoken to says, this is from the Hardwood Paroxysm, Substack.com, saying that he's pretty much not going to return to Milwaukee. And that makes a lot of sense with the Giannis trades, him being open-minded to leave, to Milwaukee not having a lot of first-round draft picks in the next few years to add to Giannis and that team. That team is essentially, it's pretty known that they are not going to win a championship anytime soon, unless something drastic changes, right? And so I think Brook Lopez realizes that. And again, him being 37 years old is something worth noting. I'm sure he wants to win a championship on his way out of the NBA. And why not go to a team that is a young team that was very good last year, is only going to get better. And so right there makes a lot of sense, right? Him wanting to go and win a championship. Why not Houston? Now, in terms of Steven Adams and Brook Lopez, right? We're going from hypothetically, right? Because we could still re-sign Adams, but hypothetically, Houston is interested in Brook Lopez. What is that difference between Steven Adams and Brook Lopez? Well, quite frankly, they are very different players. Yes, they're both bigs, but they have different games. So, quote, this is from Maxwell Ogden from Space City Scoop, who had this to say about the two big men. Quote, Lopez is by no means a carbon copy of Adams, as their respective strengths and weaknesses might as well be polar opposites. While Adams is an interior powerhouse who dominates the glass, but struggles as a shooter, Lopez is an underwhelming rebounder and thrives as a sharpshooter and shot blocker. So pros and cons to this potential exchange between these two players, right? Steven Adams was a fantastic rebounder. He was got a lot of crucial rebounds in that series with Golden State. He never fails to amaze me in terms of his rebounding ability. I know he doesn't describe it as an amazing thing. I know one reporter asked him one time, how do you do it? And he just says, once the ball goes up, you just grab it. And so I was like, what a G. But anyways, right, so he is a fantastic rebounder. Brook Lopez, 7-1, I mean, gets rebounds, but not as great and not as much as he should be, which is something that's going to be not ideal, especially for this Rocket squad who plays very quickly and prides itself on defense. Usually when you play defense, you want to get that stop. You want to only limit that to one possession and keep it that way. And so rebounding would be a thing that would be a downside in terms of, big man for big man. But at the same time, Brook Lopez, as we've mentioned earlier, 37% from three. And to have that threat from three, to have someone who is a better shooter than Adams was, who obviously struggled even from the free throw line, could also be a good exchange, right? And so to have that extra three-point shooter, this team needs a lot of shooting. Brook Lopez signing Brook Lopez won't solve your shooting problem, but it definitely helps, right, to have a big man who can shoot from beyond the arc and get you a little bit extra points on the court as well. 13 points per game is fairly solid for a 37-year-old big man. Now, what are some challenges to getting Brook Lopez, right? Although it is free agency, so that you don't have to trade players or anything, so you would just straight up be getting that player. The challenges are other teams that are interested in Brook Lopez, right? So if we lose Adams, we want to go after Brook, who I think is a good guy to go after. But so do a lot of other teams in the NBA. And one of those teams, quite frankly, is a team that is desperate for a big man, the Lakers. This is from Mark Stein's Substack. Quote, the Lakers have long been fans of Brook Lopez, sources say. That doesn't guarantee they will pursue him again, but the Lakers are indeed expected to be a player in the center market this season. So with that, you have competition if you're the Rockets, and of course, with any free agent as good as Brook Lopez, you are going to get that. But the reason why I want to highlight the Lakers is because it is so evident, so widely known that they need a big. That was killer for them in the playoffs this year. Their big was Jackson Hayes, right? Who loved the guy, UT alum, hook 'em, whatever I want to say. But at the same time, that was not working out for them. As great as a player as he is, that was not what they needed. It's not what they need currently. And so they are going to put all their marbles, all their chips into finding a big in free agency. So now, Brook Lopez, right, is a guy you want to look out for. The only thing that I would mention, right, is that if they do want a big, it would be beneficial to get Brook Lopez, but at the same time, I could also see them not going full throttle. Because like I said before, Brook Lopez, he is 37 years old. So the Lakers would have to ask themselves, right, is it wise enough to get this 37-year-old who is on his way out, is a little bit older, because we're going to eventually put ourselves in this situation in the near future, right? Because he is 37 years old, and I don't see him playing past 40 by any means. So, yeah, I would assume they would also want someone younger. Now, of course, Brook Lopez would probably be their backup, But at the same time, uh, getting two bigs in free agency, quality bigs for that matter, is a very difficult challenge. Whereas for the Rockets, right, we have our big, we have our Şengün, we have the guy who's going to be our big man for a long, long time. So we would be simply looking for a backup, right? But it all just depends on one, how desperate the Lakers would be in getting this bid. They need one really bad. But again, are you going to put all your chips in a guy like Brook Lopez? I can see it going both ways, but nevertheless, that is the competition that we are facing in terms of acquiring him. Again, I want to reiterate because I know a lot of you are fans of Steven Adams, and so am I. He's one of my favorite players on this Rocket squad. The way he plays is the way every player should play. Quite frankly, never give up attitude, always hustling out there. And so, if we can re-sign him, absolutely re-sign Steven Adams. But Brook Lopez is a good backup option in both ways, to backup option for Adams and a backup option for Alperen Şengün. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention how this could possibly affect the Giannis deal. I don't think it would be huge, right? I'm sure Giannis and Brook Lopez would love to play each other, and if we were to acquire Brook Lopez, maybe that's some leverage from the Houston Rockets side. But I think ultimately Giannis is going to decide what he wants to do for for himself, for his family, and as far as winning a second championship, for what we know that he really, really wants to very, very bad, as he said on this Brothers podcast not too long ago. So there is that as well. It would be great to have those two guys come to Houston, help bring us a championship. Of course, that would have to happen via trade in terms of Giannis. But nevertheless, I want you guys to let me know in the comments what you think. Do you think Brook Lopez is a good backup option to Steven Adams, or is there another big out there that you guys would like to see on the Houston Rockets squad this upcoming season? And with that, thank you so much for joining us. This has been another episode of Rockets Digest. I'm your host, Donovan Ricondo. Adios.